Belgioioso Cheese is a family-owned and operated company specializing in artisan Italian cheesemaking. Using only natural ingredients and fresh local Wisconsin milk, master cheesemakers handcraft the full line of exceptional cheeses, guided by a commitment to quality and a respect for tradition. Ask your distributor about Belgioioso's award-winning fresh mozzarella, burrata, ricotta, mascarpone, American Grana, and Parmesan. At Belgioioso, every cheese is a specialty.
Experts weigh in on 2026 prospects. Chipotle could have its first negative year on record, and major fast food chains blow open the value wars. Welcome to Extra Serving, a podcast from Nation's Restaurant News. I'm Editor-in-Chief Sam Oches, joined by my colleague, Executive Editor Alicia Kelso. Alicia, I think we're both about as tired. We're both very tired because it's been a very, very busy week for both of us. And we were both in the state of Florida, which just takes a lot out of you, I guess.
Sadly, however, we were not together.
But we were not together, unfortunately. Two separate events in Florida pulled us away. Alicia, let's start with your event in Florida. You were in Orlando for the annual ICR event. I was very jealous. That's a great event. Lots of great access to incredible leaders, incredible brands. That was no different this year. Alicia, let's get some highlights from ICR. Tell us more about your time there.
Yeah, sure. It was interesting.
Okay, moving on to my thing.
Yeah. To sum it up, it was really interesting. I would say it was very different from last year, where we had sort of a sense of cautious optimism. You know, the ICR is always so interesting anyway, because it's the first event of the year. And so you get a pulse on, we're coming off usually an industry tailwind, because November, December tend to be pretty strong. But last year, the presidential election was, fresh off the election, and that was behind us. So we could anticipate things like the regulatory environment and business policies. So we had a bit of that cautious optimism, just kind of knowing what to expect. But then 2025 did not go how anyone predicted it would go. And that's largely because of the uncertainties surrounding, ironically, the presidential policies in tariffs and immigration. Then, on top of that, we had layoffs were rampant throughout the year. Gen Z in particular had a hard time finding employment. Inflation continues to linger. We had CPI last week, and menu prices accelerated at their fastest pace since late 2022. We saw tick-ups on the food side with eggs earlier this year and beef at the end of this year. And really, consumer sentiment fell off a cliff. So I think because of the more buoyant predictions going into 2025 being way off, I think very few people, at least to me, were willing to predict much about 2026, at least not confidently. Guidance was conservative, attainable goals. All the analysts I spoke to very much expect the value environment to even further intensify, which is
we're already seeing,
and yes, which we saw this week, yeah. Of course, and a lot of continued uncertainties and continued spending challenges. Fitch Ratings predicted modest growth, low single digits, and mostly from price. With traffic flat again, same story, different year. I will say, if there is a silver lining, I like to find those, Sam. Yeah. It's that investors are hungry. We are expecting more deals, based on a lot of the discussions that I had on the show floor, even maybe a couple of IPOs. Who's it going to be? Maybe we could put some bets down if that's legal in our HR policy.
Bets, I'm not sure if that's legal, but
as long as we don't ourselves invest, right? So we'll see. Things obviously they change really, really quickly, and have in the past year. And I think perhaps the biggest takeaway that I had is that operators have become used to that. They become used to the noise. And a lot of them said that they've become more agile, just to expect that nothing is really stable right now. Of course, the geopolitical environment is a major question mark right now, more than it was last year. But again, there's silver linings too. Gas prices are down. We've got tax relief expected to come, from the One Big Beautiful Bill. And we're heading into Super Bowl, March Madness. We've got Winter Olympics. We've got the World Cup. Yeah. So I think that I think it's going to be, again, much of the same with some negatives and some positives, and maybe a little bit more on the positive side this year.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned the World Cup. I was reading that there were 500 million ticket requests for the World Cup when they opened that process up. That you're absolutely right that could be a boon to certain markets, of course, Dallas, Kansas City, New Jersey, New York, LA. But those are real boosts, and we could take boosts whenever we get them. Alicia, sometimes I feel like we're in Groundhog Day because it's like we could have had this whole conversation 4 years ago. Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of interest from the investors to, that we're going to see a lot of M&A activity. Oh yeah, value is really ramping up. I mean, it does feel like one of these years we're going to get things are genuinely better, but that's not going to be 2026. That was reiterated at my event. I attended a Technomics annual. It's FPP. I don't remember what those all stands for. I have food service planning, something, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, our good friends at Technomic, part of our group here at Informa Food Service. And this event that they hold is primarily for our supplier friends to get them up to speed on what to expect from the industry over the course of the year. And our good friends, Dave Henkes and Joe Pollock and Robert Byrne and many others are presenting really incredible data to sort of set the stage for what the year is going to hold. Joe Pollock also presented to our leadership team, was down there for some meetings as well. And we will sink into that data a little bit more next week, I'm sure, Alicia, once we get our hands on that. But some echoing a lot of the sentiment that you were getting from ICR. I mean, the big thing here is that 2026 is not going to be some big rebound year. As Joe said it, he said 2026, no quick fix. He loved that rhymed. And that's true. It's like there's not going to be, unless there is some crazy random, event like a World Cup type thing that is even bigger than we could have expected it to be. The fact of the matter is they're predicting roughly 4%, I think, nominal growth this year. But when adjusted for inflation, it's really basically nothing. And to your point, a lot of that's going to be from brands taking price. He was illustrating how, labor is really one of the biggest issues at play right now. There were several states that had minimum wage increases in the past year, and there are some more expected this year. And when you look at which states had the highest increase in prices, it was those same states. So, of course, when you have that factor, restaurants are forced to raise their prices, but they're feeling pressured because they're also getting hit with beef prices. And they also have already raised their prices so much that they feel like they can't continue to do that, but they have no choice. Of course, we've seen a lot of restaurant closures. They expect there to be a lot more of those. But as Joe pointed out in his presentation, the people assume that's because of sales. It's actually because of labor. Restaurants are struggling to find people to work. He had this incredible statistic that kind of blew my mind. And I'm probably going to get all the numbers wrong, but I'll try to get the gist of it right. And the idea was basically that like 20 years ago, 53% of, I think it was 16 to 24-year-olds, 53% of that age bracket had jobs. That same bracket today, it's like 30%. And so the big issue is that for an industry that has really relied upon young people getting their first job, they are opting not to work. And so there's that going on. And then simultaneously immigration. The immigration number was at its height something like 14 million a couple years ago. That's already down to 10 point something million because of either forced or volunteer deportation. This is an industry that relies heavily on immigrants. So the biggest concern for 2026 that I deduced from Joe's presentation was really just that labor is going to continue to be a pressure on restaurants, and they're backed into this corner where they cannot continue to increase their prices and then pay people more to get them to come work. They simply just cannot find these people to do it. And if you cannot find people to staff your restaurant, you cannot operate. And there was also, a mention of expecting there to be a lot more retrofits, a lot more, secondary builds because there's too much saturation. There are too many restaurants. We can all agree that there's just too many restaurants. And so as these restaurant closures continue, expect the brands who are able to grow to really kind of swoop in and grab those, secondary models, because there is opportunity to secure business without it being sort of additive to the overall consideration set in the areas. You know, it's I think silver linings, of course, all over the place, like you say, Alicia. I mean, at the end of the day, people got to eat. The food away from home spend is increasing. It is now something like 51% of all food consumed is away from home versus 49 at home, and Joe sees that growing. I mean, that is certainly reason to be optimistic. Robert Byrne, in one of his presentations, talked about the growth in spontaneous and special occasions, versus routine occasions are actually going down, and people are more just spontaneously visiting restaurants or going out for special occasions, which is all over our recent America's Favorite Chains report. By the way, go check that out on nrn.com. You see all of the, basically the entire top 10 of America's Favorite Chains, which we published in conjunction with Technomic, is either a spontaneous occasion, Dutch Bros, Seven Brew Scooters, or special occasion, the Capitol Grill, Nothing Bun Cakes. And so anyway, there's reason to believe that those things will continue to fuel interest in the restaurant industry. People are still going to go to restaurants. It's just that the cream is really going to rise to the top here. I think the best operators are going to win the day because they're going to be the ones that can attract the talent. They're going to be the ones that can withstand the increased costs and all of the volatility. And, we just don't know what's around the corner. You mentioned the geopolitical situation. Joe Pollack mentioned in his presentation, tariffs have actually had a less of an impact than people expected. And that seems to not be the big concern now, but certainly the situations with Venezuela and Iran, these things do have real impact. So take a deep breath. That's what I feel like I need to do right now. Whew.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's dizzy. It's a dizzying amount of agility that is required right now in this environment, both from a policy standpoint and a consumer standpoint, because that saturation conversation came up quite a bit in my discussions at ICR too. And the population, in the United States is declining, and there's really no end in sight for that. So when you talk about having too many restaurants, that is a good example, and consumers becoming more selective, at the same time. Now, the big silver lining to your point with Technomic that was reiterated by Fitch Ratings is that restaurants took over share on the retail side, on the grocery side, about 20 years ago. And it has just continued to grow share because we like to use restaurants. So we will find a justification to use restaurants because we are American consumers.
That's right. That is true. Okay, so let's talk about a few brands that were sort of highlighted there at ICR and sort of the talk of the event. Let's start with Jersey Mike's. Jersey Mike's announced earlier this week that Peter Cancro, of course, their founder and former CEO, he would be franchising the brand in Europe and the UK. And this is big news because, of course, as we all know, Peter sold Jersey Mike's last year and but decided to stick around because he's such a good person. Peter's just one of the best, and he loves that brand so much. And now it's like he can't quit it. He wants to go operate the thing in Europe. You had a chance to talk to new CEO Charlie Morrison. Alicia, tell us about what we should expect from Jersey Mike's.
I just need to say that Charlie Morrison looks exactly like my neighbor, and so I forced the I forced the poor guy to take some pictures with me. I sent it to my wife. I'm look at this guy. Anyway, he's a very good sport. But yes, and I love talking to Charlie Morrison. He's just one of the giants in this industry, and to have the opportunity to talk to him on the heels of this major news, Jersey Mike's expanding beyond North America, for the first time is big news, let alone the fact that they're expanding beyond North America for the first time with its founder as the franchisee. Is there a bigger vote of confidence than that? He's not going to mess that brand up. A lot of brands have some struggles translating into international markets. It's not an easy thing to do. Peter Cancro is not going to mess this up. So sooner than later, we will have 400 Jersey Mike's in the United Kingdom and Ireland. Charlie Morrison made it a point to tell me that is early days on what we can further expect. There are about 3,200 Jersey Mike's restaurants right now in the United States and Canada.
Mhm.
This deal will put them, 3,600. You don't pay me to do math, but they're also opening about 300 restaurants a year in the core market. In their core market, there's a ton of white space. Charlie thinks that they can get to 8,000 in a couple of years, and they're just killing everybody in their competitive set. I think the nearest competitor is Charlie Subs, which is significantly smaller. Charlie Steakhouse, excuse me. And there's just an opportunity here because we have seen a deep retrenchment on Subway. And so, that has made room for, a premium brand like Jersey Mike's to sort of step in and take control. Their sandwiches are one of America's favorite cuisines. And so I think I think it's going to be really, really interesting to watch. And again, I think Charlie Morrison is the right guy to lead it. Now, I'm intrigued because with all my discussions with analysts predicting that there could be some IPOs this year, and last year was relatively quiet. We had a couple, but they were significantly smaller. Black Rock Coffee Bar is a good example. I mean, not a lot of people have heard of them. Jersey Mike's is coming off an $8 billion acquisition by private equity, I think the world's biggest private equity firm in Blackstone. And so why are they at ICR now presenting? Is there another step in the near future? Could Jersey Mike's be a potential IPO candidate? Charlie is the guy that took Wingstop public to much success. And so they could probably be in the consideration set among several other restaurant companies that could be eyeing an IPO that we've already talked about, in the past several months. We'll see.
Yeah, certainly a good candidate for that. And by the way, I mean, we've talked a number of times in the last couple of months about the opportunity in international growth, going back to what we were talking about earlier, where there's just too many restaurants in the United States. And if you want to grow, you're basically sitting around waiting for somebody else to close. And then again, you got to go find people to staff it. But there is more opportunity, it feels like, now internationally in some markets. And it's so interesting. Europe and the UK really are in the crosshairs for a lot of brands right now. Wingstop itself went to the UK recently. Dave's Hot Chicken opened in the UK. I had another great chat with our buddy Scott Mezvinsky, the global CEO for KFC, earlier this week. And we had talked in Barcelona at GRLC about this, and we were kind of doubling down on it in our recent conversation about the success that KFC has had in Europe and just the opportunity that they still see to grow there. And it's, it's not out of character. It's just not strange to see this happening. It's just unique with Peter Cancro being the one to do it. But Jersey Mike's famously has an incredible relationship with his franchisees because of Peter. He cares so deeply for those franchisees. He would pay for all of their retrofits. Like that one time, remember, he pumped millions of dollars into just covering the retrofits for them. And he gets that relationship between franchisor and franchisee better than any of them. And so I have no doubt that that's going to be very successful for them. So let's turn our attention to another one now, TGI Fridays. TGI Fridays announced a turnaround plan that Alicia, you wrote about, and I find it interesting because TGI Fridays is kind of a prime candidate to be the next Chili's. Chili's, of course, going through 3 years of its own turnaround that have been nothing short of remarkable, and that was all on the backbone of that was a plan that Kevin Hochman, their CEO, had put forth to how they're going to turn things around. Should we expect TGI Fridays to follow a similar blueprint? You talked to Ray Blanchett, their CEO, about it. What did you hear from him?
Yeah, I did get the chance to talk to Ray. It was great. Excuse me, I want to caveat that because Ray, I asked him why he came back. So he was the CEO of TGI Fridays from 2018 to 23. And after he left, TGI Fridays, they really went through it in 24 and 25. They filed bankruptcy at the end of 24. They went into administration in their UK system, which is bankruptcy over in the UK, in 2025. So they closed, I think, more than half of their system. This TGI Fridays, this legacy casual dining brand that really defined, the bar-centric casual dining with flair, has really gone through. He came back. I asked him why. He said it's because he cares. He knows these franchisees personally, and he knows the potential of the brand. This brand, the turnaround plan they put in place called the 1-2-3 Strategic Vision, has an objective of getting the brand to $2 billion and 1,000+ restaurants by 2030. It is certainly ambitious.
Ambitious,
And
yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. The last number we have for this is at the end of 23, and that is before they closed most of their system. Mm-hmm. So this number is no question lower now. Yeah. At the end of 23, it was about 1.4 billion. So that's a, 2 billion and 1.4 billion difference. But like we said, even lower now. There are currently 380 locations in more than 35 countries. So to get to 1,000+ by 2030, again, that's 4 years. That's ambitious. There's 4 strategic pillars as part of this plan. The one that he was the most enthusiastic, and they include flexible growth opportunities like non-traditional airports, hotels. Those will get that footprint up quicker because they're less cost intensive to open in smaller footprints. Strengthening the franchise system, hooray! We want to prioritize franchisee profitability. Thank God for that. Investing in leadership development and training. That's tremendous. They want to reduce turnover. What he seemed most excited about was this activation of the brand. There's a significant amount of brand equity in TGI Fridays, mm-hmm. especially for people my age. And, they had this, what it called TGI Elf Days, where he told me he asked every franchisee after this tough year to spend like $5,000 on Christmas decorations. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I thought they were all going to look at me like I was crazy, but they all did it. And it was worth it. They got more than a return. At this activation drove sales and traffic. They are now positive on both. They have a limited time menu, themed cocktails, activity, trivia, and movie nights. It was very holistic. And he said he knew then and there that the brand was strong enough to do more stuff like this, if the franchisees buy in, that they will get a return on that and activate the brand to create memorable experiences among its consumers to make it relevant again. That's the Chili's comparison to me more than anything else. We will see if this comes to fruition, but I think it's kind of a cool little plan and early days here.
I mean, that you can't discount that whole brand equity piece of it. And again, so true that Chili's was leaning hard into that as well. These brands really mean something to people. And TGI Fridays, of course, like that destination for young professionals to go have happy hour, it was the it kind of spot for such a long time. And I think Chili's is proving that people want that experience. Chili's didn't snap their fingers and make this happen. Chili's obviously spent those 3 years improving its operations and its labor and its menu. But the people came because people wanted that kind of experience that Chili's was offering. And TGI Fridays has that same kind of experience, and it's going to have to really improve in a lot of those same ways. Now, that ambition, I have a question for our audience. I'm going to throw this out there, but what is the benefit of putting out these really high bars? Why go out there and say you're going to open this number of locations in this time frame when it seems nearly impossible? I'm genuinely curious because we've talked about this before, Alicia. Rarely do these brands meet those ambitious goals. But it could be that this is sort of a rallying the troops. Maybe this is just saying, come on, let's go for it. And even if they don't hit that goal, but they still turn everything positive and they build momentum, perhaps that was worth it. And they're just trying to light a fire. I genuinely am curious if people have a case for why that would be smart to do it. But for all the reasons we were talking about earlier, Alicia, it's like, just a numbers game. Where are you going to hire the people to fill those 1,000 locations? Where are you going to get the real estate, especially for a TGI Fridays that are larger boxes, requires a lot more people to staff a TGI Fridays than a QSR. So I will root for them because we want to root for all of these restaurants. But I think the ambition may be a little bit too ambitious?
It's ambitious, but I want to make something pretty clear here. I think the bullishness is coming more on the international side than the domestic side. Mm-hmm. And Ray made it a point repeatedly to note to me that things are not as hard in most markets as they are in the US and the UK. And to support its turnaround plan, for example, they hired a president of their global system, Phil Broad, who's been, the managing director back in their heyday in 1990s to early 2000s. And so they have new agreements in Peru, Japan. He talked about the brand resonance in countries like Kenya. I mean, I think that this ambition is largely focused on international markets where it's resonating and where the business conditions, according to Ray, may not be as challenged as what we're seeing with this brand domestically.
And I don't know what labor challenges those markets would have too. Because again, I mean, like that leadership development piece of it is huge, right? Because you've got to build this pipeline so that you have people you can send out to all of those locations and staff them and train them and do all of that. Did he mention non-traditional? Because I mean, I see TGI Fridays all the time in airports. That's typically where I'm experiencing it. It seems like that could be another opportunity.
Airports, hotels, things like that. Yes, that is going to be a big piece of this. Their second bullet, flexible growth across markets. So flexible formats, including those non-traditionals.
Gotcha. All right. So another brand that was on everybody's lips at ICR, but I don't think was actually presenting, Chipotle. Chipotle, of course. I mean, look, we've been talking a lot about Chipotle. We keep talking about Chipotle. This week, what we're talking about is pretty substantial. They said they have adjusted what they see from their 2025 results is they are expecting negative sales returns, negative comp sales for the first time on record since Chipotle has been reporting as a public company, which I think is 23 years. And also Chris Brandt stepped down. Chris, of course, was their chief brand officer, correct? Is that right, Alicia?
Mm-hmm. And last year had a president. So he was, yeah.
And a major part of its success in the past several years, a part of that Brian Nickel crew that came in and retooled Chipotle. So it seems like there are some red flags at Chipotle right now. Scott Boatwright, CEO, though, is still projecting confidence. Alicia, you talked with a few folks at ICR with thoughts about Chipotle. Tell me what you're hearing.
Yeah, I think that this wasn't a surprise. Yeah, I think that the reaffirmation of a same-store sales decline for fiscal year 2025 wasn't a surprise. We've all been covering each quarter. What is surprising is that this is their first negative year, inclusive of the COVID year in 2020, in which they were up 1.8%, and inclusive of the E. coli outbreak in 2015, in which they were up 0.2%. So barely. What surprised me is the Chris Brandt departure. He was a power lister. He is well known in the industry. Chipotle is top of mind with strong brand equity, in large part because of his 8 years at the helm. We have covered at length intentionally all of the work that Chipotle has done in the past several months to turn things around, both traffic and sales, especially directed at the younger Gen Z crowd with whom the chain over indexes. So his departure leaves a big question mark about how Chipotle moves forward from a branding standpoint, because when you're at that role for 8 years, you really have your fingerprints all over it. It also made me wonder, what happened here? You can't help but wonder, what was this? Was this a Boatwright directive, that this throwing spaghetti against a wall from where I'm sitting? Because, I cover Chipotle, prolifically in the past couple months, another marketing campaign. Is this Boatwright saying this isn't working? Is this Chris Brandt saying this, this getting the directive and not wanting to, this seems like an interesting, it just seemed like a really interesting move, again, because to your point, Chris Brandt was such a big part of Chipotle's success through the Nickel years and, early in the Boatwright years. So I don't know. I think we saw another marketing campaign come out this week after the Chris Brandt announcement with their Olympic athlete menu and gold tinfoil. So I think obviously Chipotle is going to be fine. But it's always interesting to me how much ownership consumers have in this brand. And when I, put anything out there about Chipotle, how their opinions about the brand and how it has not lived up to its perceived quality hype in the past recent years. That's the thing that comes to mind. I think they're still struggling with a portion size issue as well. And now we're seeing them get into these, BOGO deals. And is that eroding their brand equity? We don't see a lot of fast casuals in this value conversation. There's a reason for that. And so what's going to happen in 2026 as this intensifies, from the likes of Taco Bell and Wendy, everybody's jumping in even harder here. So I don't know, just interesting development over at Chipotle.
Yeah, we talked about this a bit last month when we published our episode of Signature with Scott Boatwright, and talked about, I have sympathy for Scott and what a difficult position he came into, where this company is against the most difficult sort of macroeconomic factors in the company's history for the most part, and simultaneously dealing with turnover and inflation, and there's just so much going on. And so to some degree you feel bad because it's like, well, this is, you got served a pretty bad hand here, and you just have to play what you've been dealt. And the fact of the matter is, especially in a public company, if things are not going well, there just has to be change. This is sort of what you accept as part of a public company, and you can show all of your financials. Your stakeholders are going to ask for change. And so you're right. We can only speculate about Chris's departure, whether that was, hey, this is the change we're going to make because we need somebody to come in here and sort of think about this a little bit differently. Whether it was a vote of no confidence for Scott's leadership and Chris sort of self-selecting to leave, we don't know, and we're not going to continue to speculate because it almost doesn't matter. But the point is like Chipotle is in a bad spot. But you just sort of have to factor in all of the other things we've been talking about this whole episode. And one thing we did not talk about, Alicia, but we were talking about offline before we hit record, is some of the statistics around fast casual as a category. That was something else as part of the Technomic presentations that I was listening in on in Florida. And the fact that Joe Pollock was showing us this data that, over the last 15 years, the average comp sales for fast casual as a category, double digits every year. And fast casual was the golden child, and we were all raving about it. And, then it was down to last year, it was like 5.3%. And like, that's still pretty good. That's still outpacing pretty much every other category. We're raving about casual dining's comeback, and casual dining was not that successful. And so to some degree, you have to take all of this with a grain of salt, because you have to say, well, fast casual right now is just not what it was. And so is it fair for us to say Chipotle is failing simply because Chipotle is not rocking double-digit comps over and over and over again like it was? The other thing, just going back to something we previously talked about, Joe Pollock was mentioning that big problem for fast casual right now is that Gen Z is not spending on fast casual like millennials spent on fast casual, because again, Gen Z is not out there getting jobs. Gen Z does not necessarily have discretionary income. And so the fast casual boom has been fueled by younger consumers, and younger consumers right now are not necessarily spending as much as younger generations in the past have. That should change. That will hopefully change as, hopefully jobs hiring picks up and as the economy becomes a little bit more favorable. And so to your point, I think fast casual is going to be fine. And as part of that, I think Chipotle is going to be very fine. But unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that when you're in a position like this, there just has to be some change. And so this is the change that's being made.
Yeah. I talked to William Blair analyst Sharon Zach via one of my favorite sources, and I asked her what, about her general thoughts, and she went on and on about a couple, and she's like, and I think the most overblown story this year was that fast casual is not okay.
Right.
And I was relieved to hear that. We covered it here, but it is going to be okay. There's still very much a demand for that market. especially from millennials who now have families.
Yep, exactly. Okay, let's pivot now into our extra serving portion of the episode. Assuming he got my message and is actually going to sign in. We're going to pivot now to talk a little bit about menu innovation and especially value meals, because we hinted at this earlier, Alicia. We talked about the fact that there has been a couple of very major value meal announcements this week, but it's all part of a lot of just menu rollouts and innovation. We're going to talk about the value meal announcements that happened this week. Taco Bell and Wendy's, both of them made some big value announcements. Let's start with Taco Bell. This one really kind of, you were really impressed, surprised. Tell me about your reactions around the Taco Bell.
Wasn't too surprised. They tested this in July in the single market, but it's throwing down the gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
It's throwing down a gauntlet. It's lowering that limbo stick. What other metaphors can I use here? We had Taco Bell come out with its Luxe Value menu with 10 items at $3 or below. We've not really seen that price point yet in the value wars for a menu. We've seen $2.99 snack wraps and, some $2 here or there, but we've not seen a full 10 item menu, including with 5 new menu items, by the way, which is new news, which is exciting. $3 it's a good selling point, and Taco Bell that's why they're kicking ass, is because they found the balance between innovation and value all year long. Last year outpaced its peers significantly every single quarter. And it continues to do just that.
This is where I wonder, though, Alicia, did they need to do this? I mean, are they just really trying to own value as others encroach on the territory?
Maybe. I don't know. But I also think that the value environment is intensifying well beyond what any of us imagined it would. I think the lower income consumer is still really hurting, and that middle income consumer is starting to show signs of weakness in restaurant spending as well. So I think whenever you have a lower access or entry point, like a $3, they're gonna undercut the competition with this, and I think that's really important in a market share game. Tell me about some of these new menu items. That's a good question. You think I memorized these?
I mean, for the last half hour, you've been going off the top of your head with all this stuff. For God's sake.
Can't remember.
I can't remember 5 new menu items at Taco Bell.
There's no way. I do know what surprised me is some of them were beef-based. And I was under the impression when I saw the headline come through that, okay, we can do $3 at Taco Bell because they have a lot of rice, bean-based dishes. This probably isn't a beef-based dish because beef is like historically high right now. Yeah. But then I know that some of them are, like a mini salad is one of them on the innovation side. I can't think of the other ones.
I wonder if this is a loss leader. I mean, come on, like $3. How do you pull that off?
It might be, and I don't know because I don't get paid to do math, as I remind you every week, Sam.
What am I, an economist? Come on.
I'll get a CFO on speed dial here to explain this to me, but I just don't know. But I don't know if there's subsidies involved here. There has been some subsidization in some of these value offerings. Like if you think about McDonald's, corporate has kicked in some benefits there. We know that Coke has as well. I don't know if that's the case here, and I certainly don't want to speculate, but it's a big deal. I think with Taco Bell too, they have really mastered the art of the barbell menu. Their Luxe Value menu goes all the way up to $9. Mm-hmm. Ideally, someone comes in for one of those $2.49 mini salads and sees something that is more intriguing at the $5, $7, or $9 mark. That's the goal here with barbell menus. That's how we talked last week that, operators have a mandate now in this intense value environment to really figure out that barbell approach more than ever, perhaps, because we know that value is not going away and we have to protect our margins, and a lot of companies are doing that through the loyalty program, but loyalty members they can be fickle, and it's only a fraction of total guests or potential guests. So if you want to play in the value sandbox, you've got to figure out the barbell strategy.
So pivoting to a company that does really need the help in this value meal is Wendy's. Wendy's is updating their biggie meals, which I got to tell you, Alicia, I am a big fan of because Wendy's is my go-to spot with my son Jude. He loves Wendy's. He really loves the Wendy's tendies now, which now that there are 2 tendies on the kids menu, this is a big win for me. And I have enjoyed the biggie bag and picking and choosing from that menu. I do find it to be great value. They are sort of revamping this, so I'm trying to get this right. It's a 4-6-8 kind of thing here, where they got biggie bites at $4, biggie bag at $6, and biggie bundle at $8. Bret Thorn's here, everybody. Bret Thorn, he made it.
Made
Bret,
it.
can you hear us, Bret?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Are there just too many people at the office today? What's going on with the internet over there?
Nobody's in the office, so I don't know. It's Friday, and nobody goes into the office on Friday.
And apparently the internet doesn't go to the office on Friday either.
I don't know what's going on. It's too bad because I have a lot of internet stuff to do today.
Don't you hate it when you need the internet the most and then the internet doesn't work?
And
not reliable. Bret, we were just talking about the value updates at Taco Bell and Wendy's. We were onto our Wendy's, which I was saying is, you know me, I'm a big Wendy's guy, and so this is one I will probably partake in. They've got an $8, $6, $4 kind of tier here. Bret, tell me about your thoughts on Wendy's value news that they made this week.
I mean, I don't know how much discounting you can keep doing, but certainly that's what customers are looking for, clearly. And other chains obviously are doing it too. Arby's has a new deal. Yes, the $7.99 meat and 3 box, which is a lot of food. You get a sandwich, you get 2 sides of dessert and a drink for $7.99. Along with their new peach cobbler roll, which sounds pretty good. It's interesting what Arby's is doing because they're calling it the meat and 3, leaning into not their southern roots. I mean, they're based in Atlanta, but they're a Midwestern brand originally.
Mm-hmm.
But then they just rolled out an Italian beef dip that is a Chicago style sandwich. So they're doing some sort of cultural heritage cross promotional branding stuff. That's
interesting. I mean, pulls at heartstrings, right? You're pulling at the those emotional the emotional desires of your customer. I get that. That makes some sense. The value being the name of the game, having something to appeal to the customer to get them to come into the restaurant again. I really wanted to also talk to you about just early menu innovation in 2026. You can't really talk about menu innovation in 26 without talking about protein, which we've all sort of talked about to death already. But Bret, what do you see as being some of the biggest sort of trends in menu innovation so far?
I mean, that's it. Protein. Yeah. It's nuts, especially protein milk. And in case anyone in the audience doesn't already know this, protein already has milk in it. Or excuse me, the other way around.
Yeah,
the other way around. Already has protein in it.
Uh-huh.
But they're adding whey protein or other enhancements to make it more protein rich. And again, not a nutritionist, but if you ask the Harvard School of Public Health or the Mayo Clinic or anybody else, Americans get enough protein for the most part. Doesn't matter. Customers want it. They're going to give it to them. I was actually talking to Nick Jamais, the co-founder of Sweet Green, that has their new curated bowls developed in collaboration with Dr. Hyman and his company that's all about giving you a blood test and telling you, or many blood tests, and telling you what's wrong with you and what you should be eating. And this is another trend that we're seeing, going beyond protein to more of a functional health overall kind of situation, which is good. It's good that we should pay attention to what we eat. And, I like to think that I see these trends and then I go on with my life, but I'm eating more protein. I want to deny it, but I've been leaving the gym and eating 2 hard-boiled eggs. Well, it's a 12 grams of protein. I don't know, but this is a ongoing fascination that Americans have to eat more protein.
And it seems like I think we are all seeing that the next one could be fiber is the one coming around the corner, right, Bret?
That's what everybody is saying. I'd love that. We do, again, not a nutritionist, but all the experts say we need more fiber. And, eat your vegetables. I don't know that you need to go out of your way to add fiber, which is what everybody's going to want to do. They're going to want to add fiber supplements to their food as opposed to just having some peas and carrots, which have plenty of fiber.
Well, restaurants love a good trend to pounce on. And I mean, if it pops up in social, I mean, why not? You might as well ride those coattails as far as you can go.
For sure. And the protein thing, like, it doesn't hurt you to eat too much protein unless you're also consuming too many calories, because you know what happens to protein that you don't need? Your body turns it into either sugar or fat, depending on whether you need energy now or you need to store it later. So watch your calories, everybody.
Everything in moderation. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. But as I said, I was talking to Nick Jamais, who's trying to bulk up. So he told me he's trying to eat 150 to 200 grams of protein a day, which, hi, everybody, you don't need that much protein.
A lot of protein, unless you're transferring it somewhere, right? Unless you're using it.
I mean, yeah, if you are an Olympic swimmer, you probably need more protein than that. But if you're a regular person, even if you're trying to get swole, Doghouse, by the way, has a new swole chick.
A swole what?
A swole chick. It is a breakfast burrito with scrambled egg, whites, grilled chicken, white American cheese, and other things that don't have protein. But overall, it has 80 grams of protein for one breakfast.
And it sounds kind of delicious.
I mean, Doghouse has good food. And, I've actually changed the format of my menu tracker column that if they mention how many grams of protein are in it, I say how many grams of protein are in it, because it seems to be an important marketing point these
People
days.
seem to want to know that. Yeah. We've all covered this industry so long. We've seen these things come and go. We know how this goes. It'll flame out at some point and, fiber becomes the new thing. And then after that, I don't know, sodium or something. And
Sodium.
that's a trend for a while too.
Well, let's cut back on sodium, though.
Well, right. Low sodium, I should say. Low sodium. People are not going to want sodium bowls. Although, who knows? Honestly, sometimes up is down and down is up.
I just gave permission to a packaged goods company to send me hydrogenated water, which is something that I'm very skeptical about. But I'm like, sure, you want to send me the hydrogen water? Fine. There's a little preliminary information that maybe it's good for some things. I'm not even going to talk about what, because it's all preliminary. It doesn't really matter. But, no matter what we do, and I mean this in a positive way, no matter what we do, we're going to die. And so which gives life value and meaning. So we should enjoy what we eat and be reasonably careful. I get 10,000 steps a day. I get my exercise and I eat my whole grains and everything. And occasionally I don't.
Well, if there's one thing everybody should learn from this episode, it's that eventually you're going to die. So thanks for that, Bret. That's a good thing to remember. But it is also important to remember, take care of yourself. This is an industry that is easy to lose control and not take care of yourself.
Sure.
So
do that. And I don't mean that in a fatalistic way. Yes, that's going to happen, but try to delay it. Try to enjoy yourself. Have a good time. It's a positive that our existence is finite. And also, we don't have a choice. I didn't mean to get all this philosophy.
On that existential note, Bret, tell us who you're interviewing on today's episode, because we are sharing another episode or another interview of yours. Who is it?
Brendan Mullan, who we last spoke to when he was the corporate chef of Iron Hill Restaurant and Brewery, which is gone now. Chapter 7 closed up, everything gone. So now he's at another Philadelphia sports bar chain called Chickie's and Pete's. And he'll tell you all about what he's doing there and the dynamism of that chain.
Very exciting. I'm glad to see Brendan landing on his feet. Spent a lot of time with him last year as part of, they won a Menu Masters Award. Great dude. So excited to hear that interview. All right, Bret, Alicia, as always, thanks. We'll talk to you all next week.
The last time we spoke, you worked for a company that no longer exists. You were at Iron Hill Restaurant and Brewery.
That's right. Did that podcast about, gosh, that was about a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And since then, it went away. And you have a new job at Chickies and Pete's.
I do. Yeah, I landed at Chickies and Pete's. Super excited to be here. It's been really exciting couple of months to get to know the brand and be on board.
And so it's also sort of a sports bar concept, right? Like full service
Yes.
sports stop.
We're the official sports bar of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Go Birds.
Yeah, go Birds. So we're, synonymous with Philadelphia sports. It's, we've been around for next year is going to be our 50th year.
Whoa.
And we have a huge location down in South Philly that's right next to the sports complex, the Eagles, Flyers, Phillies, and Sixers stadiums. So we get tons of viewership and tons of guests coming and going to the sports events. And then we're affiliated with the Philadelphia Eagles, which was a dream come true for me. I mean, I've been an Eagles fan since I was born. Grew up in Delaware County and lived most of my adult life in Philadelphia. So to merge my two passions of great food and Philadelphia Eagles and Philadelphia sports has been a dream come true.
Are you a fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Big fan. Yeah, of course.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's, usually when people are horrible to each other, I don't really like to watch it, but they're just so funny.
They're great. They're hilarious. I've actually met them. A long time ago when they first got started, they came to Bridget Foy's, which was the restaurant that I got my start as an executive chef in. And they were so nice. It was kind of surreal to see Danny DeVito in my dining room, but they're real Philadelphians and they're down to earth. And yeah, that was an exciting moment.
And not like their characters on TV. They're nice and not sociopathic.
Yes, they are very nice. Yeah.
That's good to know because I feel good about all of them. So I'm glad to hear that they're good people.
Yes.
But instead of just, geeking out over celebrities, let's geek out over food.
Yeah.
What are you working on at Chickies and Pete's?
Well, I've been on board for a couple months now. So the beginning was just learning the brand, learning the food, getting acclimated. So now we're working on just kind of upping our game and revamping the culinary. It's a great position to be in where I'm coming on board and it's a brand that is established and doing well. So I wasn't brought in here to change everything, but to bring us to the next level. And so we're kind of working on that right now.
So it's taking stuff that is already good and making it better.
Yes, which is a lot better than starting from scratch.
Yes. Well, I mean, is it or is there a challenge? And you don't want to freak out your customers by saying, "Hey, this burger that you love, it's a different burger now."
Yes.
Bad.
Yeah. There's definitely a level of loyalty from our guests. And you're right. You don't want to be the new guy that changes everybody's favorite thing. So I'm very conscious of that. But, there are things that we can improve that aren't necessarily guest facing. Some of our operations, some of our execution, improving product and improving the way we do things so that we can really be humming, but not change everybody's favorite item or a brand that they're really accustomed to knowing and growing up with.
Yeah, because even if you make it better in theory, if it's different, people are going to be like, no, I don't want it better. I want it the way I want it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's something to be said for, always improving and keeping up with trends. If you're stagnant, you're going to get left behind. But at the same time, if you have a formula that works, you got to be careful because you don't want to make changes that are going to negatively impact your brand.
No.
Yeah.
So what are some of the either operational or ingredient stuff that you're digging into right now?
Right now we're looking at upcoming LTOs. So we run 4 LTOs, pretty much continuously. So they're seasonal. And that's a great way to kind of push food innovation, introduce something new without taking away from the core menu or the things that everybody loves. So, we're currently running it with seafood boils on on our LTO, and we're looking to just kind of add to that program and improve that product. And then we can, the LTO is a great way to test things out, push the envelope, without taking away from the core menu and from the things that the guests love.
So are seafood boils a thing that Chickies and Pete's does at this time of year?
Yes, so we're currently offering it on an LTO, but Chickies and Pete's is known for seafood. That's how it all started. 49 years ago, Pete, who is the current CEO and owner, his parents opened up a corner bar in Northeast Philly, which is still open. It's the original location, Robbins Avenue, and it's truly a corner dive bar, but in the best way. And they had a very small menu, and they started out with seafood because they thought nobody else really had any seafood offerings in the area. So it's it's mussels in a fantastic red sauce. My favorite recipe on the whole menu is Pete's red sauce. It's garlicky, it's savory. So really anything with that on it is dynamite. But it's crabs, Dungeness crabs, snow crab clusters, Maryland blue crabs, crab cakes, mussels, clams, oysters, tons of shellfish. That's kind of our signature core. And then over the years, we've added to that menu. And now we're selling tons of cheesesteaks and burgers and chicken tenders and things like that. Great bar food. But the thing that everybody loves is the crab fry. Our crab fries have a signature seasoning on them. It's a little bit spicy. It's savory. And then they come with the cheese sauce. And that's what people really come for. It's our number one seller. And that really is kind of the signature item that everybody is in for.
What is a crab fry? It sounds like a unique Philly area kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's a crinkle cut fry. So it's crispy. It has a little bit of texture, so it holds that seasoning. And then it has a blend of spices that we dust in it, and then it's served with a cheese sauce. And it's in, we're in over 50 venues, sports stadiums and arenas, with over 150 stands within those 50 venues, selling primarily crab fries. We do some chicken tenders and some sandwiches, but really they just line up for the crab fries. So around the area, Chickies and Pete's is known for the crab fry.
Why is it called a crab fry? It doesn't sound like there's any crab in there.
Well, it's a crab seasoning that goes on. Yes.
Similar to the famous one in
it accompanies the crabs that you're getting if you come into our bar or restaurant. So it's salty. People like to drink cold beer, get messy, pick through some crabs, and eat some crab fries on the side.
Sure. So it's similar to serving potatoes at a crab boil, which you do.
Yep.
And instead you have crab fries that just sort of spread the seasoning on through the fries.
Yes.
So we got a crab boil or a seafood boil going on now, probably with crab in it, sounds like.
Yeah, you can get a couple different options. So there's a build your own. So you can pick and choose. You can get lobster claws, blue crabs, snow crabs, mussels, clams, shrimp. There's some andouille sausage, corn on the cob, red potatoes, classic seafood boil. And then we have some that are built out for you, that have a different mix of seafood. But the build your own has been really popular.
Wow. So, now I'm just thinking of Red Lobster, which also has come up with seafood boils. And
Yes.
maybe this is a new and exciting trend in chain restaurants, seafood boils. Maybe.
Yeah, it's been really great for us. I can tell you that.
So is this seafood focus new for you, or had you done a lot of this in the past?
For me personally, or for Chickies and Pete's? For me personally, yeah, I've never worked with a seafood concept. A lot of the past restaurants that I've worked in and concepts have included seafood. I worked at Continental, a star restaurant that had a whole bunch of, it's a very eclectic global cuisine. So lots of seafood there. A lot of American cuisine, whether it was Iron Hill Brewery or Bridget Foy's. So I've worked with a lot of seafood. This level of seafood and kind of managing all this product is new to me, though.
Well, and I would think, It seems to me that seafood is challenging, whether it's managing cost or,
Mhm.
it's highly perishable. What is it challenging? And if so, what do you find most challenging?
It is. It's very challenging. There's lots of seasonal items. There are lots of highly perishable items that you have to really dial in on how you're treating all of the product. Live product. Storing mussels, cleaning mussels, and things like that. It's really it really takes good systems and a lot of diligence and being very well organized. So they have a lot of good systems in place. I'm diving in and getting up to speed and really trying to dial those systems in as well and improve where we can. But yeah, it presents a lot of challenges. It's a lot of higher food cost items, higher margin, but when you're working with lobster and crab and things that are kind of luxury ingredients, you really have a thinner margin of error, as they're highly perishable and high cost. But we do a good job, and the restaurants are staying busy, which is great because moving that product is essential. So the fact that the public really enjoys our offerings really helps with moving that product and keeping it fresh.
Well, and certainly making sure they also order some crab fries helps with food cost, I'm sure. So that's
Yes, of course,
a
of
good
course.
thing. So we got the seafood boils going on. Are there other LTOs that you're working on?
Right now, not really. We did add some crab cake sliders and some burger sliders to the menu that are going really well. And there's a couple partnerships with the Philadelphia Eagles. So we have a AJ Brown Sweet Heat Wings, and Brian Dawkins is involved. We have a nacho that donates $4 for every order to the Brian Dawkins Foundation. So we do have some exciting things that are partnership with the Eagles and some of the Eagles players, which is really cool.
Have you gotten to meet them?
Not yet. I try to play it cool when meeting celebrities and act like I've been there before. The Philadelphia Eagles for me is a little bit different. It's kind of like a childhood thing. I'm in the conference room at our headquarters right now, and there's all these signed balls from heroes of mine when I was a child, and Super Bowl stuff. So it's pretty exciting to me, but I'm trying to play it cool. Haven't met all my favorite players yet, but I think it's inevitable. They come to our South Philly restaurant all the time, and we cater their training camp and things like that. So looking
Oh,
forward to meeting a lot of them.
something to look forward to in the
Yes.
coming year.
Yes.
When you meet them, do you think you'll giggle like a little girl? A little
I
bit?
might. I'll try to play it cool, like I said, but I might. I'll certainly giggle like a little girl when I get home and tell my friends that I've met some of the Eagles players.
That's exciting. So in terms of systems, I'm sure they have a lot of stuff in place, but are there some things that you're working on in terms of, I don't know, tightening things up or managing costs or whatever?
Yeah, I'm working on kind of universalizing the systems and making them consistent throughout. It's family owned and operated, and when you start with a very small core and then grow as we have, some of those things get passed along and then lost in the sauce a little bit. So we're tightening up some of those systems. One of my colleagues from Iron Hill, Rachel, came over. She was a training specialist, and so training is something that we're certainly going to invest in. And those systems are the foundation for that.
For sure. How many Chickies and Pete's locations are there?
There's 18 full service locations. The furthest being, I guess, in Nevada. We have operations in Reno and Las Vegas. They are run by the casino operations, those two. But we have one in Kansas City that we control the operations for. Otherwise, the majority of the locations are in this surrounding Philadelphia area.
And how does it work? Does each restaurant have a chef or a kitchen manager, or what's the deal?
Yeah, we have kitchen managers and general managers in each location, and they oversee everything. They're kind of The general manager is the CEO of each location, and then we have regional directors of operations that have a subset, and they support them. And then I'm in the culinary department, so along with my colleagues in the culinary department, we manage the whole company from culinary end.
Great. So, are there any new SKUs that you're planning on introducing, or anything that maybe you are considering eliminating? Because we all got tight.
Not quite yet. I might be introducing the cheesesteak egg roll down the road, coming from my Iron Hill past.
Yep.
Tried and true. Probably start that on an LTO. That is a labor intensive. It's a labor of love for that product for us. But if we're gonna do it, we're gonna make it from scratch, and we're gonna have the best one in the area. But no, I think they recently did a menu reduction and kind of streamlined execution, so they were already on the right path. And so really we're in the fine tuning stage, not really mass reduction or addition, but I'm taking it slowly.
Well, no need to rush, especially since everything seems to be going well for Chickie.
Yeah, I mean, our sales, 2025 was the best year in sales of the history of the company, and they've broken that sales record 4 years in a row. So really, really great top line sales, great traffic we're seeing in a day and age in the restaurant industry where that is tough to come by.
Yes,
for sure. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like they've been on kind of a tear, even like the past year, for whatever reason, was good for casual dining, especially since fast casual has gotten so pricey that the price difference isn't that much. So.
Yeah. I mean, the ceiling of fast casual has butted up against the floor of upscale casual or the kind of sports bar sector that we're in. And so we have a great experience. The thing that I remember about Chickies and Pete's as a guest and growing up in the area is I've never gone there and not had fun. It's always an event. It's always surrounded by tons of people, really passionate Philadelphia sports fans, my kind of people, salt of the earth. And everybody's there and they're sharing food and drinking and it's just a great time. So, I had many a night down in the South Philly location before or after a Phillies or Eagles game or maybe a concert. So just really great memories. So it's kind of an experience that we're creating. It's a party. It's the atmosphere. So people, you can't really put a price tag on that. And then you add in, great hospitality and great food, and it's a winning formula.
What's it like to look under the hood of a concept that you grew up going to?
It's pretty cool. It's a little bit humbling, and I was honored that they considered me when I was looking for a job. Like I said, I grew up as a fan, and then you get to see how they operate. Like I said, family owned and operated. They really care about the people, and it was just a really great thing to see. I was humbled overall with a lot of different opportunities when I was out there looking, and I was super excited to choose Chickies and Pete's as my employer, and I could see why a ton of people choose them as the place to dine, the place to spend their money.
I mean, it sounds like your job search wasn't too bad, because Iron Hill closed not that long ago, right? And then
I mean, I took an interview less than 24 hours after I found out that Iron Hill was closing. And then, I'm lucky enough to have made great relationships in my professional career. I had a lot of people reach out to me and just have different connections. And you got to talk to this company, you got to talk to that company. I've always left my employers on good terms. So a lot of past employers reached out, and it was a humbling experience. It was a gut punch. It was, oh no, a company that I've spent the last 10 years with is suddenly going bankrupt. But on the other end of that was just great opportunities and really humbling to have all these people reach out. And so it was actually an exciting process. And took a little bit of time just to conduct all of the interviews. But I had, I signed on with Chickies and Pete's a couple of weeks after Iron Hill was finished.
Well, great. So you're not alone in someone who, was out of a job recently. A lot, like, I don't know how many bankruptcies there were last year in restaurants. And there are more already 2 weeks into 2026. So do you have advice for all of your fellow restaurant chefs that are going to be looking for jobs?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just, look at your past experiences, look to do something that you really love. I know a lot of people that got out of the restaurant industry because of the volatility. And, that's a great peace of mind. For me, coming to an established company that is family owned was a peace of mind that I needed. But I don't know how to do anything else. I'm so passionate about food. Maybe if the Philadelphia Eagles wanted me to be the new offensive coordinator, that's something I could learn to do because I'm passionate about it. I'm definitely not equipped to do that. But this is what I love to do. I love food. I love people. And, I think really look within yourself and if this is what you want to do, take your time and find the right employer, find a stable situation, and do what you love. That's what really keeps me going, is just doing something that I love.
I mean, nobody goes into the restaurant industry for the easy hours or the fast bucks. So you might as well love it.
There's something wrong with us all to begin with because we are gluttons for punishment. I became a chef because I love to eat. And then I learned that I love cooking and, I love people and kind of the immediate gratification of cooking for someone and seeing that transaction is something that I love. But yeah, you got to really love it to endure all of the hardships that comes along with the restaurant industry.
And yeah, maybe you know more about being a chef than being an offensive coordinator for the Eagles, although I'm sure you have opinions about the Eagles offense.
I do. Sure. It's all fresh. It's a fresh wound, playoffs ended last week. So I do have opinions. I'll leave that to the experts. I have faith in the Eagles that they'll get it turned around. And I'll probably just stay put in the chef world.
All right, if you want. I'm actually originally from Denver, and I'm not a huge sports guy, but the Broncos are doing well. So
Broncos look good. The Broncos look good.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was a pleasure to catch up with you, Brendan Mullan. And
thanks. I really appreciate it, Brett. Great catching up.